Hello, welcome inside the Hero Press Box, back to our regularly scheduled time and internet connection and location that we are at as I'm back home from my trip to Chicago. If you're not watching now, Angelique Kerber is battling an upset-minded round match right now. She lost the first set 6-4 to Shea Sway, and she is currently winning. I think she's 5 now, serving for the set. So there's your Aussie update. We'll talk some more Australian Open later in the episode. But the first thing we'll cover is the U.S. national team had a friendly match tonight against Denmark. The 12th team in the world, 12th ranked team in the world, easily handled them.
Yeah.
Right, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was 5-1. I was impressed by the way that they played, the way that they handled their situation, because they went down 1-0 right in the beginning, or within the first, I think, 15 minutes of the match. And they had been really pressing high for the first 10 or so minutes. So it was kind of, we were waiting for a U.S. goal to happen, not a Denmark goal. So that was a good response from them, and they pretty much just kept on it the whole match after that, which was good to see. Something that I've been waiting for the past year.
So you questioned is that a fair statement?
Did I question the starting lineup? Yeah.
Okay. Anything you
anything I want to expand on?
Yeah.
I liked the Davidson start. I really like her. I thought she played extremely well tonight. So I was happy with the way that she played. But I also tweeted about how she just came off this long collegiate season. She's joining the U20s after this match that are trying to qualify. And so for her to play a full 90, especially a full 90, was quite ridiculous in my mind in terms of just her health and her well-being. It kind of seems like we decide to pull these players or we play injured players a little bit too long, and they're just not getting their full rest that they need. So I was worried about that. Not necessarily her performance that I was worried about, just
or her starting.
I questioned that a little bit, but it wasn't, to me, at this point, I think Jill Ellis she must have proven herself in camp the past 2 weeks or however long they were in camp to get a starting spot. I don't think she would just hand a 19-year-old a starting spot. So she must have been playing extremely well in practice. The other person,
Well, and I was gonna any comments that I had on Davidson playing back there. Having and I've become a huge fan of Abby Dahlkemper. Always been a fan, but I think she stepped up her play, and then in turn have made me a bigger fan of her. And having her back there in the center with a young Davidson, I think it was a good opportunity to have Davidson start and now let her go on with the under 20 team and start to focus on, because hopefully Davidson's not an Olympic player. Hopefully, at least for the next couple of years, if everybody stays healthy, she's not going to be in the top 4, maybe not in the top 6 as far as defenders go for the U.S., in my opinion. So I think it was good to have her start back there with the elder Dahlkemper, who you can rely on to coach up the young Davidson in her first cap.
Yeah, there are some times that I really like Dahlkemper, and then there are times where I just am like, what is she doing here, type of thing. And it's the same goes with Taylor Smith. I think Taylor Smith more or less goes in spurts of where she's really, really good, and then all of a sudden one game she'll just be turning over and not being in the right spot. So for me, a little bit, those were the 3 that I kind of questioned. the most out of all of those.
Who was your third one? You were cutting out. Smith. So Smith, Davidson.
Smith and Dahlkemper.
You would have questioned those two starting.
Yeah. I just don't think that that's our back line. Okay, so take out Davidson and put, I guess, whoever you really want in that back line, and I don't see that being our starting back line.
So I'm guessing you have Sonnet in the center back
Right.
line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm glad she got some minutes too, because I know that I complained about how Jill Ellis pulled her from Australia, which they didn't play.
Are you moving?
They didn't play this last weekend, so it made a little bit of sense.
Then I'm going to assume you're moving somebody, typically a midfielder, back there.
Yeah, and Ertz kind of did that tonight. She sat back there. Yeah. So I think that's the thing, is that I don't want to pull Julie from where she's at, because she has produced at where she's at, and she's really good at where she's at. But I don't think we really do anything without her on our back line. Or we need the players who are going to be on our back line to improve.
And I know we've talked about Casey Short on here before, and I think and I would argue that she's our best defender. So before this match tonight, I had went up on the roster, and assuming 100% health, I had just made a depth chart as far as starting 11, and I have Short and Dahlkemper as my starting two center backs, with Ertz as a defensive midfielder, which is a formation that I would prefer.
Yeah.
And then Klingenberg and O'Hara on the outsides.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Any other takeaways from that?
I never realized how much I missed Mallory Pugh. She played really well, in my opinion. Alex Morgan seems to be gaining confidence. She's scoring goals. I think her and Mallory Pugh have a great partnership up top, so that's good to see. The other person that I was really impressed with, and honestly I'm usually impressed with after every game, is Megan Rapinoe. And I think people talk about her, but I don't think we talk about her enough. I think a lot of attention goes to an Alex Morgan or a Mallory Pugh. So I think she's one of the more underrated players, even though she is, in my mind, she's a bigger name, but I do believe her play is highly underrated.
Yeah, and we've said on here for the last year that she's been the best player on that team, in my opinion, hands down.
Yeah,
best player on the team.
Yeah, and the other, I was going to talk about Carly Lloyd, but if you have anything on Pugh,
go ahead.
Okay, Rapinoe. So they brought up, I don't know if you were listening to it, Julie Foudy brought up when Carly Lloyd got subbed in. It was kind of her introduction, I guess, to Carly Lloyd not being that starting person anymore. Kind of taking the Abby Wambach role towards the end of her career. Coming in, 70th minute, somewhere in there, and kind of being that burst of energy. Which I guess I wasn't expecting that to be something, at least right now, that they would be bringing it up that, you know what, she's probably not going to be playing full 90 anymore. And then not only is that a possibility, but what is she going to say to that? What is her attitude going to be towards the team if she's not playing a full 90, if she doesn't start? So I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see over these next couple months, especially with the She Believes Cup coming up, to see if she is in that starting role, which I would imagine she would be. Yeah, just at this point, there's no necessarily need for her to start.
And especially as Morgan Bryan gets healthy and comes back.
Yeah. Well, we have so many players that are injured right now, which is good and bad, because in the sense they're getting the rest that they need, which for me, I kind of believe that some of them, I have a feeling that they might just be saying that they have an injury so that when they don't get called up, it's just kind of their way of saying they need rest versus anything else. Because
Are you hinting at? Are you hinting at that some people are getting? Are you saying
I'm
Morgan
not
Bryan, Tobin Heath,
no
and Rose Lavelle are
I'm not
getting?
s- no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I think it's kind of, I don't want to say they're doing it on purpose, but like for Rose Lavelle, like what is going on at that point? Because she's been out for what, probably 8 months, the majority of the
Mhm.
NWSL season. She played 30 minutes in Cincinnati, which she probably shouldn't have played. The only reason she played is because it was back home.
Mhm.
So, and then Sam Mewis, like what actually happened? Is it actually a serious injury that we need to be thinking, hey, she's not going to be here for World Cup qualifying, and she may not even actually be here for the World Cup. So, what's going on there?
Mhm.
I just want answers to determine whether or not it's actually a serious injury or if it's just them saying, hey, we need to take a step back. We're getting overworked. We just need some rest, which I'm completely fine with. I mean,
Mhm.
they need it. So I would rather have them healthy and ready to go and well rested for qualifying
Mhm.
than anything else, than to come play a friendly in San Diego.
You mentioned Pew and how you recognized how much you actually did miss her out. And I wanted to ask you, and I told you, and I sent this to you before we started here. What's her ceiling? Where do you see her? I don't know if you want to compare her to anybody or say she's getting better or worse than somebody. That's fine. Whatever, however you can put that in perspective on that.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that right away when you said that. And she honestly probably she has the ability to become one of the best soccer players to ever play the game because she could be so prolific at scoring goals, and she could be just as prolific, I think, as Wambach. Now that's a big feat, and that's a big reach as of right now because there's really no one touching Abby. It's kind of Abby and everybody else, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just how it is right now. But she has that ability to be that good and to be that person. I think the thing with Abby, though, that she brought to the table is her leadership. Now, do I see Mal kind of taking that position? Not right now. I would hope that if she were to become so great that she would be able to take on that leadership role and lead the team. But I don't see her taking that position, at least as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I have a hard time with her for some reason trying to forecast out what her career will be like, and I don't know why that is for her. I mean, early on, I worry about the chemistry in the midfield that she works with. I think she can create her own shot, but I don't think she's as good as other players that we've seen on the national team.
I think her
So,
pace just beats everybody else's. So it's
oh yeah,
she doesn't necessarily, in
and that's
terms
what
of
Crystal.
creating her shot, she doesn't necessarily, I guess, need to create it. She doesn't need to be incredible on the ball like a Tobin Heath is. She just
Right.
can blow by defenders.
And so at the same time, there's another player that got called up to the national team 3-4 years ago and is still on the national team, but we don't hear much about now. And she's even switching positions and might not be a forward all the time anyway. And it's Crystal Dunn, who was basically brought up to the national team for her speed to get past those defenders. And I think we can attribute some of that to the development of other nations' soccer programs and we've talked about that before, where other nations are sort of catching up to the United States. The defensive lines are becoming better, and the scouting reports or whatever it may be are keeping up with players like a Dunn and maybe like a Pew as she gets older.
Yeah, and Crystal Dunn is someone that when she first kind of came onto the scene on the national team, I don't think she made a really huge impact, at least from what I remember. Now, this is going back a couple years, so I could be completely wrong. And then she didn't make the World Cup team, and that really set her career off. And was incomplete. She turned that around and made that a complete positive in her life. And she is someone that I don't think has gotten called up enough. Shockingly, just add another player to my list of people who haven't been called up enough. But so whether that's, I don't know why that is. I don't know if there's something behind the scenes that we just don't know about, that we don't see as the reason why she hasn't been called up, or if a Mallory Pugh is kind of essentially taken her position. I mean, Sydney Leroux didn't get called up. We're not short of forwards.
Right. Hope Solo's 200th cap. They celebrated that before the match. Was there anything noteworthy? I didn't have the volume up, so I didn't hear any boos.
There was really nothing on it. They showed the beginning of her just taking pictures, and that was pretty much all that they did, or what they showed. And Julie Foudy had said some nice words, and that was pretty much it. It was not even a 1 minute thing, probably like 30 seconds. Which I wasn't surprised by.
Right. Their next match is when? Do they play another friendly before the She Believes Cup?
I don't think so. I think we go right into the She Believes Cup. I'm checking them right now to see if I can find anything.
Yeah, that's March 1st.
Yep.
March 1st against Germany. That's a game in the evening on ESPN2. So we're still month and a week away from that.
Yep.
So until then, we'll switch gears from soccer, and we'll talk about the Australian Open just a little bit.
What's going
on? Kerber just won her third game of the third set, so she's up 3-1. That is the last match this evening for the Australian Open. The thing I wanted to talk more about on here was, and this is also something that I sent to you, Madison Keys is the last American to be in contention for the Australian Open title. She is currently ranked number 20th in the world. She is the 4th best American, but is she the best American currently?
That's currently playing. We're not talking about someone who's coming back.
Right. Right now. So Venus is 5, Coco Vandeweghe is 9, Sloane Stephens is 13, then Madison Keys at 20, Serena Williams still awaiting her comeback is 22, and then that drops off to CC Bellis, who is at 49, the 18-year-old. So I'm probably going to go with Sloane.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
She had really a terrible ending to 2017 and didn't start off too promising here in the Australian Open. I would choose her to say that, yeah, if we had to pin the flag to one player, it'd be her for me.
Yeah. Yeah, but the way Keys has been playing and the fact that she's the last American, she's right up there with her. But I would agree with you. I was going to say Sloane simply because she won the U.S. Open. But Keys is a promising player for the Americans. Just a matter of putting it all together and making these deep runs into majors consistently, and then playing well on tour as well.
Yeah, Keys, Stephens, and Vandeweghe all in their mid-20s. So promising future from those three, I would say, for our country.
Yeah, and you see Venus and Serena playing later and later, and those are the first really athletes in tennis that I can think of that have really played late into their 30s, mid 30s, or I'm not exactly sure how old Venus is, but
Venus 37.
Okay, yeah. So imagine, Keys, Coco, and Sloane playing till their late 30s and having
Mm-hmm.
dominant runs and going deep into the tournaments and playing well on tour. So nothing but good things for the future.
A couple of other things to note. I put on here that there are 18 days till the opening ceremony for the Winter Olympics to start.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Right before we started the broadcast, I read an article on Taylor Gadbois and her retirement from the National Pro Fast Pitch League. She's retiring at 24. So it was just an article from the Maryville Forum. She's from Maryville. And the article was sort of detailing her story about how she basically didn't want to play in high school, but got talked into playing softball in high school and going to a camp just because her friend was going and wanted her to be there with her, so she didn't go by herself. And that camp wound up leading to her University of Missouri scholarship, and then she got drafted and tried out for the national team, but didn't make it. And then in this article, it's interesting that she talks a little bit about the politics of the softball team, the national team, and how they were supposed to try out for 2 days, but wound up only trying out for 1 day supposedly because of weather. And she talks about how they didn't tarp the field for the second day. So the rain, even though there wasn't a lot of rain, supposedly the field was too bad for them to try out. And she talked about how the one player that did make the national team struck out 3 times that first day of tryouts, and she still made the team because she'd been on it the last 3 times, 3 go-rounds. So
yeah. And I think we've talked about this. I don't know if it's been on here, if we've just exchanged messages about it, about the politics of the U.S. Olympic team and the pro side of things and how they've really been at odds with each other and just for whatever reason haven't gotten along. And I don't know. I don't remember what the article was. A pretty long article, what their conclusion was, but I guess I didn't understand why they were essentially at odds with each other when they're going for the same goal. I mean, Olympic team there's a little bit different goal because you're going for a medal. But in terms of being able to get the sport the visibility that it needs, if that's your ultimate goal, which I think it is, you would hope so at least, then I don't know why they're essentially fighting between them.
Mm-hmm. There are 19 days until college softball starts. So that'll be starting just a day after the opening ceremony. A couple of things that we'll keep our eye on coming up here in just a few weeks. Something else I had on here for us to talk about was UConn women's team. And were you watching some of that today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they scored 113 points on Temple today and wound up winning by 60 or around 60 points. They remain undefeated. Louisville did get beat. So that was Louisville's first loss. They were ranked number 2. Those 2 teams play each other on February 12th, UConn and Louisville. That's going to be at Connecticut. And then the Huskies will play at South Carolina on February 1st. So that'll be their biggest test on the road. I think they win both of those.
I don't know if they win both. Are they both on the road?
No, just South Carolina.
South Carolina's. Oof. I see them being Louisville. That South Carolina game, though, I don't know. I don't see them winning that one.
No? And again, that one's on.
I hope to be proven wrong, though.
You are cheering for an undefeated season.
I mean, I'm not necessarily cheering for an undefeated season. I'm cheering for a national championship. So if that means an undefeated season, then I'm all for it. I'd rather have them lose now than in March. I just
you
go back
have
to their
yeah.
Texas game, and they had difficulty with them, and it was on the road,
Mhm.
and they didn't play well that game. So, but that doesn't mean that they could have the same type of game against South Carolina. And I think if they have the same type of game that they had against Texas, they're not winning that game.
I was really impressed by Crystal Dangerfield today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to an extent that I haven't been impressed with her yet. She's always seemed like she is ready to take that next step and be that next great UConn point guard.
Yep.
Today, she really started to show that that's still the case.
And that's something that Gino has pointed out. I don't know if it was a couple weeks ago, but he had said that her step from last year to this year is just taking it. She took a huge step, and it's on a whole nother level. Her confidence from last year.
Did you have a W League update?
I did. So this past weekend was round 12, so which means there's only 2 more rounds to go. Brisbane Roar is the only team that has clinched a playoff spot. There are 4 teams that go to the playoffs, which means these last 2 rounds is going to be chaotic. So this past weekend, Western Sydney versus Melbourne Victory ended in a draw at 1-1. Perth Glory and Canberra United also drew at 4-4, hat trick for Kerr and goal for Rachel Hill for Perth Glory. And then Melbourne City faced Brisbane Roar in another draw. That was 0-0. Now, I was able to actually watch that game because it was on Oz.com. Perfect streaming, FYI. There was no buffering, none of that. So you're already 10 times better than Go 90 at that point. But I'm going to make a comparison to Melbourne City, and I've known this, but actually seeing it live just made me realize it even more, and that they play are like the Wisconsin Badgers. They have so many shots on goal. They actually get shots on goal, but the ball never goes in the back of the net. So it's extremely frustrating to watch. Extremely frustrating to watch. So they had 9 shots on goal and 16 shots total.
Did you watch that game live?
Yeah. Yeah. It was at a decent time here, so I figured I'd stay up and watch, and it was a good game, but it was just so frustrating to watch. Because you're making these errors in and near the box, and then you finally get a shot off, and it's the weakest shot you could have shot, or it's flying over the crossbar. It's frustrating.
Are they going to broadcast playoff games on that Oz?
Yes, they will. Yeah, that's really why I kept the membership, because it wasn't going to be worth to pay for it all individually. So I just kept the $5 membership that I pay every month. So I was fine with that. So right now it's Brisbane Roar, like I said, that clinched a playoff spot already. They're in the top spot on the ladder. Then it's Sydney FC and Newcastle Jets, and then Melbourne City. But Melbourne City does not play next round, so I will assume that they will fall out of the top 4. And I am going to run under the assumption that they will not be making the playoffs. Even though I predicted to win it all, I don't see them making the playoffs.
How many teams are still in contention?
At least 6.
Okay.
Or 5, I should say, because Brisbane Roar already clinched. Let me see.
So 5 teams fighting for 3 spots? Is what you think?
I'm just checking to see here.
Quick update on this Angelique Kerber tennis match. Chase Way is serving with the ad, down 1-5 to Kerber. And she just won the game. So it's 5-2. Kerber will serve for the match.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like 5 teams, depending on
5 teams
how.
for 3 spots.
Yeah.
Do they do it do they do 2 games, a series, 2-game series, or how do their playoffs work? Is it like NWSL?
Yeah, I do believe that's the case. And then each team has a bye because there's 9 teams. And Melbourne City's bye is next round, which is great for them. They really needed the W.
Mm-hmm.
They really needed that win. So here I am. I jinxed them. Yep. Which is not surprising. But all I have to say is the person who I picked was to win the Australian Open is still in it. So
Who's that?
I'm happy. Wozniacki?
Even though you said you picked her to win because you just wanted her to win.
Yeah. I wanted her to win, and I think she's going to win. Same thing.
I'm going to have to replay the tape on that one.
If anything, I said I think she's going to win, not that I wanted her to win.
You mean the opposite?
No, I mean what I just said.
I think you said, yeah, I want Wozniacki to win, but that might be just me saying that because I hope she wins, so I think she's going to win.
Yeah, that sounds accurate as well. It sounds like something I could say. I don't know if I said that exactly, but
anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that covers everything.
Okay. Well, we're not going to be able to broadcast the end of this match, but it is going to finish up here soon. So tune into that. And then on Thursday evening, I'll be in Florida. So we'll see if we can have an episode, but I'll keep you updated on that. And yeah, we'll go from there, I guess. So if we can, we'll be on here Thursday. If nothing else, we'll be on here next Sunday talking our sports. And we'll have some new topics, cover the other sports possibly, and we'll go from there. So that's it for tonight. Thanks for stopping by the Hero Press Box.